In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. This is a discourse analysis and pragmatics course, and this is the second session, which begins on page 3. Okay, now we already talked about what is discourse, what is pragmatics, what is discourse analysis, what is pragmatics, and we had the distinction between semantics and syntax on the one side and discourse analysis and pragmatics on the other side. Today we are going to continue with the discussion on context outside text, okay, which is on page 3, ثلاثة. And it begins with context outside text. The book is Discourse Analysis, and I am on page 3. In order to understand what we mean by context outside the text, there is a conversation between three guys on page 3. Pay a careful attention to this conversation. I'm going to read it for you, and you are supposed to understand what we mean by context outside text. Well, suppose there's a university, there's a jama'ah, and in the jama'ah there's a room called common room. A common room is a place where the students of MA students and PhD students gather in order to talk about anything they want. They can have tea, they can have coffee, they can have, let's say, cake, etc. there. Okay, it's a kind of informal room called common room. So the situation, the context is the common room of an applied linguistics course. Let us continue from line maybe 3. Yes. Line 3 of context outside text says, take a look at this excerpt from a conversation between MS student in a Master of Science student in common room of applied linguistics, department of the University of Edinburgh. Okay, department means qism, okay, department of the University of Edinburgh. So this is an excerpt. This is taken from that conversation between three guys. One is AF, the other is DM, and there is a conversation between AF and DM. Let's see. So let us talk about more the context of the conversation. So this is the Department of Edinburgh and قسم اللغة, let's say, and applied linguistics, and there's something like a conversation between an Englishman who had planned to go to Spain, okay, for Easter, okay. For example, Iranians or Iraqis go to the north of Iran, okay, to the north of Iran. Maybe some of you have been to Iran and you have been to the north of Iran, and it is nice. They go there and the prices are cheap, and everything is like very nice. They see the sea, they see let's say the jungle, and they see the mountains, both like this. Well, the same situation happens in Spain. They had planned to go to Spain, like let's say the north of Iran, okay, for Easter. Easter is a kind of holiday for them, you know, but they could not afford it. Why? Because it was expensive, okay. They could not afford the tickets, and he tells AF, DM tells AF, a Scottish woman, okay, that he ended up going walking in Aran. Okay, suppose you want to go to, let's say, well, Suppose you want to go to the north of Iran, but actually you go to a small village, not so very beautiful in Iran. Okay? So it's like this. He ended up going hill, walking in Aden. Aden is, as you see, an island off the west coast of Scotland. Okay? You go off the coast of Scotland, you go to the Pacific, excuse me, Atlantic Ocean, Mohit al-Atlasi. Okay, well, you go there in order to, in fact, have a holiday there. Instead of Spain, you go to Aden. Instead of Spain, you go to Aden. Instead of, let's say, I don't want to say the north of Iran, but actually this is a good example for you to understand. You want to go to the north of Iran, but actually you end up going to another city which is not as beautiful as the sceneries of the north of Iran. Okay, this is something like that. What knowledge do they assume they share in the conversation? First of all, let us look at the conversation. Well, AF says, so you went to Aden. A bit calm down, isn't it? And begins laughing. Okay? He or she begins laughing. So we went to Aden. A bit of calm down, isn't it? You wanted to go to the north. How come you go to Aden? You wanted to go to Spain, excuse me. How come you went to Aden? Let us look at the answer by DF. See how he actually or she actually controls the conversation. DF comes to say, it was nice actually. Have you been there? Have you been to Aden? AF says, no, I was not. I've not. Like to go. Okay? It's like this. So AF wants to play a joke on his or her friend. DM says something that no, you are mistaken. Aden is nice. Aden is like Spain. Okay? Now say, he or she says, it was nice actually. Have you been to Aden? The answer, I've not. Like to go. There's number one in between, okay? Number one. This one means 1 second of silence. Silence for 1 second. If it is 2, silence for 2 seconds. If it is 3, silence for 3 seconds. Well, in the conversation, sometimes we have something like this. No, I've not. Like to go. What does it mean? You're thinking about something. You want to change your idea. He actually or she actually changed his idea. DM says, did a lot of climbing. Did a lot of climbing. What does it mean? They went to have something like تسلق الجبال. Okay? Like the north of Iran, like Zagros Mountains in the western part of Iran, and then Alborz Mountains in the north of Iran. Well, did a lot of climbing. It means what it was like this, like hills going up and down. AF said, huh? DM says, I went with Francesca. 0.5 second, half a second of silence, and said, and David. So it's like this. I went with Francesca and David. Okay? AF said, Now DM continues to say that aren't is as beautiful as Spain and less affordable. Not so expensive. Look, well, Francesca's roommate. 2 seconds of silence and says, a bit of calm down. Well, excuse me. And Alice is a friend of Alice from London. So Francesca's roommate number 1 and Alice's. So one person with 2 friends. Okay, a friend, a roommate of Francesca and a friend of Alice's from London. 2 people. Okay, there were 6 of us. There were 6 of us. Yeah, we did a lot of hill walking. Okay, we got back 2 minutes again. You see, 2 minutes, 2 seconds of silence. Michelle and I got home. She looked like, look at her knees. She looked at her knees. Well, they were like this, showing hands. Well, showing her knees. Okay, swollen up like this. They were, look at me, look at my hands. They were swollen up like this. Swollen like this. Cause we did enormous 8-hour stretch. Okay, exercise. Yalla. Okay, 8 hours 8 hours stretch. And AF said, okay. Now this conversation has repeatedly worked out throughout this book. Anytime you come back to this conversation and have a look. Well, let us see. Well, in the Applied Linguistic Department of the University of Edinburgh, there was a conversation between 2 guys, a man and a woman. They were talking about the summer holiday, Easter holiday, actually Easter holiday, not summer holidays. And there was something like this. Well, in this conversation, actually, you see 3 types of context. Down page 3. Number 1, the situational context. What speakers know, what they can see around them. What speakers know about what they see, they can see around them. So, in the situation, there's a room, there are students, and 2 students are talking, and this room is in the university, in the University of Edinburgh, etc., etc. This is the situational context. Situational context. Okay? I suppose you call it siyaq. Siyaq. Okay? Context means siyaq al-bi'a maybe. I don't know. Siyaq al-bi'a maybe. I don't know. Because I don't know Arabic, but actually some words like this. Number 2. The background knowledge context. I know you, you know me in the conversation. There are 2 guys in the conversation, DM and AM. Because they know each other, they have got similar background knowledge of each other. She's a student, I am a student, we are both students of the same, for example, department, the same, for example, university, etc., etc. Number 3 is the contextual context. When we talk about contextual context, we mean the sentences before and after. Let's see. What they know about what they have been saying, okay, talking. We will come to this last sort later in units A2 and D2 as the book says. So it was a conversation. In the conversation there were 3 types of context. Okay, outside text. Okay, the text has got context, and you see the context out there on page 3, but these are other elements. Now let us go to talk about the situational context. Well, Going to page 4, line 1, we have something like the situational context. Let's see what is the situational context. Line 2 of page 4 says, well, this is the situational context. They were like this, swollen up like this, okay? Maybe I don't know متورم in Farsi, we say متورم ورم in Farsi. Maybe you have got the same word for English. When your part of your body actually is like this, swollen up, going to be bigger with full of blood, we say it's swollen up, okay? They were like this, swollen up like this, okay? Now DM must be making line 2, a gesture that he knows AF can see, okay? When you look at your friend, you're talking and you're showing your hands, saying something with your hands, and at the same time you are looking at your friend and you see that he understands, and you actually shake your head in order, you nod in order to say that you be okay. Holding hands open, round, to show what Michael's, like 3, what Michael's knees look like, okay? Well, just go down there. You can see context in the form of language as well, not in the form of outside situation. Go to line, let me count the line. Now line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Line 9. Look at that. We see? Like this. Line 9. It is part of the Aaron's conversation. It was the conversation on page 4. So like this, when you show your hand, at the same time you use language to say a kind of context. This is another kind of context, language context, linguistic context, not situational context. Like that, like this. Why? Because this is a demonstrative pronoun. Demonstrative pronouns actually show the context, okay, through the use of language. This or هذا, okay? هذا is what? Is a demonstrative pronoun. هذه, demonstrative pronoun. This, the, تلك, ذلك, the demonstrative pronoun, okay? Well, so demonstrative pronouns are part of language and language context, okay? Going down, you have another example. So the first example was a conversation between 2 MA students, MS or MA students. Now there's another kind of conversation on page 4. Well, this conversation, it is between 2 guys. One is the lecturer, the university teacher is called the lecturer, you know. And pupil means a student, okay? معلم, محصل, okay? Teacher, lecturer, okay. 49, why do you say 49? Pupil, because there's another one there, because there's another one here. Lecturer, right. We have got 49, haven't we? We have, but here there is 2, okay? Etc., etc. Again, this is another kind of, in fact, text which has got different types of contexts. Linguistic context and outside context. Okay? Situational context. Well, in this conversation, actually 3 lines below, we have the word like there, T-H-E-R-E, there, which shows demonstrative pronouns, okay? Like demonstrative adverbs. There is an adverb, okay? So it is another one. Maybe it's going to be big. I'm going to, in fact, continue from page 4. Well, let me finish page 4. There's another kind of conversation, there's another context again, but in the form of story of Augustus who would not have any sou. I suppose I'm going to have it on the next lecture. Thank you very much. I'm going to have it on my next lecture. Thank you.